Okay, I'm going to pull up my graphing calculator here and talk to you about how to change it into sequence mode. Find the mode button, it's right next to the second button at the top. Arrow down to where it says functions or etc. and get over to sequence. Hit enter on sequence, that way it's changed to sequence mode. Then when you hit your Y equals key, it doesn't look like it used to look. It looks like this. And I'm going to try to interpret it for you. First of all, know that it's all those lines, but you're only going to use the top three. Notice what it changes to after that. Instead of U sub whatevers, it changes to what? V sub whatever. And then it changes to W sub whatevers. And that's a way for you to enter multiple sequences. You could enter one sequence under U sub somethings, and on one sequence under V's, and one sequence under W's. But all we need is the U subs. So we're only going to use the top three lines of this. And I've kind of simplified them. Here are the top three things that I have to answer for my calculator to be able to do this. And they relate to these things. They got to basically tell them that same information, except they want it in a different way. All right. When it says n min, what it's asking for is what is the smallest n? And n is the little number that's the sub number. So that's our smallest one. It's our first one. And so our n min is 1. And it probably is already in your calculator. It's defaulted to that. Okay. Next, u sub n is equal to, what did we always write next? Notice this is saying sub by using parentheses because it can't do subscript when it's in that mode. So u sub n is given by, what do we always say next? U sub n minus 1. And that's exactly what you need to type. But don't use a capital U, use a small u. It's right above the 7 key. You find it there? So hit second and then the 7 key. And that'll give you that little u. And then you need a parentheses, n minus 1. So second 7 gives you the u. Parentheses means sub. N is right above the x, is on the x key, by the way. In case you had to know where the n was, it's right next to the green alpha key. N minus 1. And then don't hit enter yet because we need to now say what to do in this function. Well, this function that we're looking at right now wants us to subtract 7 each time. Okay, so if we want to subtract 7 each time, that's where we put the minus 7. Now, the only last line we have here is the u sub n min equals. What it's saying, remember we figured out what n min was. We told the calculator that n min was 1. So u sub n min means the same as u sub 1 by using substitution. It's asking for u sub 1. What is u sub 1 again? It's the first term, and that's 20. So it's just asking where should I start? It understands that you are going to subtract 7 each time, but it needs to know where to start. Now, if you hit second and table, if yours starts running for a long time, it means somebody messed with your table settings, and it's like sometimes people's tables start on like the 1000th term. So if yours is running forever and not giving you an answer, it's because it's looking for like some huge number on term, and that's a good way to torture your friends. Set their table settings, which are right there, to something other than like 1 or 0 or -1. Okay. All right. So that's where, again, you can tap. If you wanted to have the 500th term, you don't want to have to hit down in the table 500 times. You want to go to your table settings and change it to something that you want. Well, I wanted the first few terms, so this is good enough for now. So I'm going to go back to the table, and there it is. Notice that our very first one we have that makes any sense is n is 1, gives me a u sub n of 20. And the next term after that is 13. Next term after that is 6, etc. How come there's nothing before the 20? Because it starts at 20. And remember how our little where n is greater than or equal to 2? That's saying that we can't do this for the first term because there's no term in front of it. And therefore, it's kind of like asking where'd the Earth come from? Well, some scientists say that it was a Big Bang. There was this big glob of stuff, and then there was an explosion, and it made the Earth come into being by this explosion. And then there's other people that will say, well, it says in the Bible that God made the earth and did it in 7 days, etc. There's other people who believe that there is no God and therefore it wasn't God, and it must have been this explosion. And then you can say, well, okay, so if the earth started by this explosion, if you're going to give me, I'll give you that. Let's say there was this big explosion. Well, where'd the explosion come from? I'm just asking. I mean, okay, so explosion of this big ball of whatever it was that made all the planets. And where'd the big ball of whatever it was come from? And just like it's like we don't know. We don't know where it came from. We don't know how long it had been there. So that's why this little thing says error here, because it doesn't know. It doesn't know what came before that. And we're all guessing anyway. A lot of the scientific stuff is theories. And for a while in the 50s, they said that the Earth was we were going into an ice age again. There's a cover of Time magazine that says we're going into an ice age. And now we're worried that we're heating up too fast. And it's because we don't know. We're just guessing. There was a theory that it was going to go into ice age. Now there's a theory that we're going to get too hot and polar caps are going to melt, and that's going to be a bad thing. And there's all kinds of other theories. There's one theory that the world's going to end in 2012. You guys heard about that one? Okay, so there's a lot of theories out there. All right. So what I want you to be able to do, though, is if I give you a formula, you should be able to plug it into your calculator and make that table work and be able to find several terms. So let's try one more like that. Let's say I give you this, 6, 12, 18. I'll give you a nice simple one. See if you can enter that on your calculator in the right way using that little sequence of steps I showed you. And see if you can tell me what the 100th term would be in this sequence. Remember, you'll need to go to your table settings once you get it working. If you have trouble, ask me. I'll come around right now. I'll pause my video and do that. Okay, so if I'm going to put this in, first of all, n min equals 1. You really aren't going to change that too often. Every now and then, we change that n min, and we don't start with our first term being u sub 1. We have it be 0. I'll show you how to do that later, but it's really just, you change that to a 0 right there if you were going to do that. U sub n is given by u sub n minus 1. Nice part about having the formula already typed in is now I can just change this to whatever I want. Is it going down by 7 each time? No, it's going up by 6. So I go plus 6, and then I just arrow down to this, and I change this to a starting term of what? 6. So I hit a 6 there, and then I go to table settings because I know I want the 100th term. So I'm going to have it start at 100, and then I go table. And it does those little lines in the upper right-hand corner that are kind of like a worm crawling up the wall. That's the thing thinking, and it's taking a while. And there we go. Okay, so that's saying that the 100th term is 600. Is that what you got? Okay, good. All right, I think you understand what I need you to understand. Now, there's a couple other little twists to it. And one thing on the worksheet, we're going to skip the ones that I have crossed off in red here. There's not many to skip, but they're just kind of redundant. And there's one question that looks like this. A bunch of stuff is unreadable, except the third term is 10, and the sixth term is 16. Can you reproduce what was there before? If you know that it was arithmetic, as opposed to geometric, where it was multiplying. This is arithmetic, where it was either adding or subtracting. Yes? So you think it was up by 2 every time, and so therefore, what would this be? And this would be? And therefore, this must have been, and this must be. All right, and so therefore, the formula would have been u sub 1 equals 6, u sub n given by u sub n minus 1. And then what do I put here? Plus. What does it go up by every time? 2. Where n is greater than or equal to 2. What is this called again? Starts with a D. The domain. All right, I think you get it.